Broncos country, what is poppin'? It is your boy Mark here with Marcky Sports, and man, I am excited about today's episode. I've been cooking this one up for a little bit because I always get curious when I think to myself, all right, I know the players that I like. I kind of have an idea going through all these different, mock drafts or just doing research, watching the film, reading articles, whatever it might be. I have an understanding of the players that I like, the players I'm not very high on. But what's really the most important thing for Bronco fans and for really any fan of any team is, what is your team's big board look like? What do you think, if you put yourself in their shoes or try to look at these players through the lens of these GMs, how would their big board look if you really took a holistic approach? So that's what we're going to do today, and I'm super pumped about it. We're going to talk about projecting the Broncos' current big board from the wide receivers and also from the running back. So I hope you guys enjoy this. If you love NFL draft content, if you love Denver sports, go ahead and do me a favor, guys. If you're not already, hit subscribe, check some of the other videos out, and give me a little thumbs up on the video too, and interact with me in the comments. I try to tell people all the time, I love it when you do that. It's appreciated. And thanks for in advance. So let's go ahead and get it, man. What are we going to start with today? Today we are going to start with the Denver Broncos big board for wide receivers. Again, guys, listen, let me tell you exactly. I want to preface again by saying this. This is what I think the Broncos, George Payton, Sean Payton, have as their big board ranking. It's obviously subject to change. But we're about a month out. I don't know if too much will. So let's go ahead and start it. All right. And actually, you know what? Let me take this away real quick. Let me talk about a couple things. The way that I looked at this was, okay, let's look at the Broncos wide receiver position the way that it is currently constructed now. All right. What are the kind of players that this team needs and is looking for that they don't already have, right? So they got Cortland Sutton. We know who he is. He's the wide receiver one. He's our X. He's going to be the guy primarily running the outside. The routes on the outside. He's going to be running the short to intermediate route, getting open. A lot of those deep digs. A lot of that is what you typically will see from him in a Sean Payton offense. And then you got Devon Vele. Devon Vele is an integral part to this team, but he's somebody that I think gives you a little bit of versatility. In an ideal world, I think he's your big slot because I think he's the best when he is running routes out of the slot, short, intermediate, across the middle, just getting down and dirty with these guys, making the tough catches. But I think this year, the vision that they have for him is he's going to replace little Jordan Humphrey and do a little bit more about what they asked for him to do, right? More blocking, closer to the line of scrimmage type of stuff. Again, pretty much a big slot receiver, but even more so aligned for, towards the blocking end of it. Then you got Troy Franklin. I think last year was an experimental year with Troy. I think they wanted to see what he can do in terms of, running some of the wide receiver screens. Obviously, he's going to be a take the top off of the player type of a guy, but he's not your, other X, the other outside receiver, the guy that can get open on the curl routes, on the comebacks, across the middle very often. He's just not that player. Can he become that player? Sure, but hope is not a strategy in the NFL. Troy Franklin is just a deep ball, go get it. Stretch the field type of guy. That's how he should be viewed because that's what he's best at. And I don't know if he's going to really be anything better than that. And that's totally fine. It's an extremely important role in this offense, but that's how I view him. And then you look at Marvin Mims. Marvin Mims is your gadget guy, right? He's the jack of all trades. He's good at everything. You give him the ball out of the backfield, he can be utilized in a multitude of ways, but he's not really that traditional receiver either. And he's also your other guy that can take the top off of the defense, but you can get him the ball in space and good things are going to happen with somebody like Marvin Mims. But he's not a traditional receiver again. I don't think that they view him like that. He's probably my favorite. He is my favorite wide receiver on the team. Ain't no doubt about it. But that's how I view it. So when I look at through that, I say, okay, what is this team missing, right? And that's why I have Emeka Egbuka at number 1. We are missing a true wide receiver that is you put him in the slot, he is going to get open. Short, intermediate routes, he's going to do the dirty work for you. But the real reason why I have him there, because I don't think that the Broncos are necessarily targeting a slot receiver. I think they view Emeka Egbuka as somebody that can play outside opposite of Cortland Sutton very well. He can get open on the outside. Ain't no doubt about that. But man, is he just scream a Sean Payton guy from his locker room standpoint, right? From what he can bring to a locker room, a culture building, absolute workaholic, team leader, someone that puts the team before himself. He does whatever he needs to do. One of the big things is, this guy's the most decorated wide receiver in Ohio State's history, which is saying a lot because they've had some unbelievable receivers. He finally gets an opportunity this season to be like the guy, but they have a dog in Jeremiah Smith who's a freshman. He says, no problem. I'll take a backseat to him if needed, if that's what the team needs to do, and I'll do all the dirty work. And multiple people from Ohio State have talked about, we don't win a national championship if it's not for Emeka Egbuka. He is the main reason for us being able to make the run that they did. Brian Hartline is an extremely respected wide receiver coach that coaches for Ohio State. And in addition to that, he played in the NFL. He's someone that absolutely, prides his guys and coaches his guys to take pride in blocking and doing all the dirty work, doing all the things that if the ball's not coming to you, you still got a really, really integral role. And that all sounds so much like what Sean Payton likes from his wide receivers. And I am very confident. This is obviously my opinion, but I feel very confident that Emeka Egbuka is the number one wide receiver on the Broncos board. I just think it's such a good fit. He's someone that, like I said, if they needed to look for a Sutton replacement in the future, he could be that guy. He's 6'1", 205 pounds, something like that. I mean, he's got the size and the length, and it's adequate enough to be able to play outside. He can win outside. He's proved that. But, man, they can mix him up on all sorts of formations. He is such a good complement to what Courtland Sutton does, to what Evan Ingram will do as he plays mainly as the slot, even though he's a tight end, he'll play a lot in the slot this year. We're missing that outside guy on the other side of Courtland Sutton. And if Courtland Sutton's going to garner a lot of the attention, Emeka Egbuka is going to be able to win. This guy is very, very, very special, in my opinion. Just wait, guys. Just wait. I mean, Emeka Egbuka is going to run his 40 tomorrow at the pro day. If he breaks 4.4, he might not be available there at 20. He's got that kind of speed. You don't always see it on film. But I love this dude. I have him ranked number one on what I perceive to be the Broncos' big board. Number two is Teteroa McMillan. And this one was tough for me because I go back and forth with this one. I think with Tet McMillan being number two, it's really dependent on what's going to happen with Courtland Sutton. All right. I don't know if they're going to have a contract extension in place before the draft. I expect for them to have it regardless. And if they end up drafting somebody like a Tet McMillan, some people might say, no, they're not going to do it. I still think in good faith, they give him the extension. But Tet McMillan is somebody that definitely projects to be an heir apparent to Courtland Sutton. They actually are very similar in a lot of different ways, in my opinion. I mean, they're not going to necessarily beat you with speed, right? But they're going to beat you with their physicality, with their jump ball ability. And I think Tet McMillan's got a little bit more juice than what Courtland Sutton currently has, even what Courtland Sutton had coming out of SMU. I think he's got a little bit more juice. And he's got a little bit more, yak ability. He's tall like Sutton. He's probably a little bit taller than Courtland Sutton. He's not as big, but he is somebody that is surprisingly nimble and can have some yak ability. He would be, and we already know Sean Payton loves his big receivers. I mean, he loves it. It wouldn't surprise me if Tet was probably the number one on the board, but based off of just how it fits, having Sutton on one side and Tet on the other, I think would be really lethal. It'd be a phenomenal combination for Bo Nix, your young quarterback, to take advantage of. No doubt about that. I just feel like I put Emeka Egbuka above him, A, because of the leadership traits and what he could bring to this culture that Sean Payton is building, and B, because he absolutely can win outside, and he gives you the versatility to be able to play in the slot. I don't know if Tet McMillan can necessarily do that, but I think he's going to fall in love with his size, his traits. Tet McMillan, it seems like a really good kid, someone that loves football, that really takes it seriously. I loved his interview that he had on the podcast with Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter said he was the toughest guy I've ever had to guard. He loves to compete. And he also said a lot of the great things, whether he meant it or not. He said, for me, man, it's all about doing the little things. If you're going to go out there and just run laps and you're not going to get the ball, that's fine, as long as you know that you're contributing to the success of your team overall. He showed a lot of effort playing on an Arizona team that wasn't really all that good, right? He didn't have the best quarterback, and yet he still was out there producing. He did it for several years. Really good versatility. I think Tet McMillan is someone that, for all those reasons, would certainly at least be wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2 on the Denver Broncos board. Number 3 is Matthew Golden. Very similar to the reason I have Emeka Egbuka at 1 is Matthew Golden. The difference is that I think he's better on the outside than Emeka Egbuka is, but I don't think he's necessarily as good or as polished in the slot. He could be. He's also a little bit smaller, right? And, you talk about a threshold that I think Sean Payton's got with a lot of these guys. 5'11", 198 pounds or whatever Matthew Golden ended up weighing in at, it might be a little bit smaller than what he ideally likes. But, dude, you watch this guy, man. He is so crisp with his routes. He is buttery smooth. He's a technician. He really is. And if you look at some of the guys that, Sean Payton's drafted in the past, he's fine going with a little bit smaller guys. He drafted Brandon Cooks in the first round. He drafted Robert Meacham pretty high. I think Robert Meacham was actually first round pick too, even though Robert Meacham was a little bit bigger. But he's looking for those guys that, yes, they have the ability to stretch the field, but man, they can just create separation. Matthew Golden brings something to this wide receiver group that is completely missing outside of maybe Cortland Sutton. And that's the ability to just separate on those short to the intermediate to deeper routes, right? The deep digs, the comeback routes, the curl routes, the double moves, obviously the deeper slants and the shorter slants. Any of those kind of routes, we don't have guys that can consistently separate. Matthew Golden can do that. I think that just because of his lack of size, he's going to be dropped a little bit, but he's someone I'm sure the Broncos have very, very high on their draft day list, in my opinion. Number 4 is going to be Jalen Royals. Let me tell you something about Jalen Royals, man. This dude is impressive to watch on film. He is incredibly impressive. I think that he is a yak monster. He's a lot more polished than people really give him credit for. He was really the victim of just terrible quarterback play at Utah State. The Utah State quarterback was bad, but this dude is just getting open. He's out there. And what I like about him is I love his size. 6'2", 205. He's built almost like a running back. Very, very physical. And man, do you see that? I mean, there was a clip that I saw. I can't remember who it was against, but he took a shot and the safety was absolutely injured. I think he knocked himself out. He's got really, really impressive start and go type of speed. Like his acceleration is something that is really awesome to be able to see. And what I liked about him is, let me pull up the numbers here just so I can make sure I get it right. He was a quick guy, man. He tested really well at the combine. I think a lot better than people had expected for him to. Pull it over here for you. Yeah, 6 foot, 205 pounds. I love that size, man. And he carries it definitely in his lower body. Like I say, he's built more like a running back. He ran a 4.42, which was extremely impressive, but the 1.49 split is something that you love to see. Just to give you guys an idea, him and Troy Franklin ran essentially the exact same 40. Troy Franklin ran a 4.41. Jalen Royals ran a 4.42. But the difference is that Jalen Royals ran his 10-yard split in 1.49. So he gets to top gear quickly. Whereas Troy Franklin ran it in 1.61. And what I like, here's the thing. I usually don't always look at combine numbers like, oh, it looked different on film. But that's exactly what Troy Franklin was when he was when he was in Oregon and in his time with the Broncos. He's not very explosive out of his break or when he catches the ball or really just off the line in general. He gets faster as he gets rolling. That's why he's a good deep threat. Jalen Royals is the opposite of that, man. He's shifty. He gets in and out of his breaks quick. He's powerful. He's hard to take down. Like I said, he brings a unique element to this team that we don't currently have with a lot of these wide receivers. He can play outside and he can play inside. Now that I think about it, he's somebody that I think, should be a little bit higher. But this is why it was really tough, because he brings the versatility. He's got adequate enough size. I think Matthew Golden is still more polished and a little bit more explosive, but Jalen Royals really is not that far behind him. He's a little bit more raw for sure, which is why he gets dropped. But then that brings me to number 5, Jaden Higgins. Jaden Higgins is someone that I know from a body type standpoint, Sean Payton is going to be drooling over. Absolutely drooling over Jaden Higgins. And this dude at the combine, I think he did himself a lot of favors. I would not be surprised if Jaden Higgins is one of those receivers that ends up getting taken in the first round, because teams fall in love with the traits. And Jaden Higgins got the traits. He's 6'4". He's 214. So he's going to have similar height and similar length with 33 and an 1/8 inch arms as Tet McMillan. But he's about 10 pounds heavier, and he looks like he's definitely heavier. And him running a 4.47 with a 1.53 split was actually really impressive. 39-inch vertical to show that explosion. I don't know, guys. You hear a lot of these reports about Tet McMillan dropping. You're not really hearing too much about Jaden Higgins. That's usually a sign that some of these teams, they don't really want they don't want to bring a lot of attention on Jaden Higgins. They want the attention to be on Tet McMillan, Matthew Golden, and Ibuka, and all these other guys, Luther Burden, right? But Jaden Higgins, man, do not be surprised. You heard it here first. Do not be surprised if Jaden Higgins is the receiver that is taken before Tet McMillan. When you're talking about the true big X receivers, I wouldn't be surprised at all. Now, is he as explosive on film and makes those big plays? No, but man, he can get you some contested catches. He's really good against man. He's just an impressive player. I really liked what I saw from him. I was just shocked as to why is it. And I guess some of the reports that I've read was that he's a little bit more raw because he hasn't been playing football for as long. But I mean, guys, let's take a look at this. This is crazy. When you look at his PFF stuff, it's wild, man. Sorry. I have the back. Let me take the background down. Bang. All right. So when you look at this, his PFF is mighty impressive. I mean, a 90.5 receiving grade, 87.8 grade against man coverage. Now, I don't always look at this too deep because it could have been that the man coverage that he played up against was against, I don't know, a really shitty team. Like, I don't know. I don't even know half the team's logos on here, but one of these bad teams, right? Maybe like UCF. I don't think UCF was all that good this last year, but 58.3% contested catch rate. He does not drop the ball. The dude, 2.2% drop rate is unbelievably impressive. And over the last 3 years at Iowa State, he was durable. He played in, looks like 38 games, so 38 starts. So he might have picked up football a little bit later, but he got a lot of experience. And he improved every single year. I mean, his yards went up every single year. Now, he had 10 touchdowns as a freshman, 6, and then it went back up to 9, but he had 1,100 yards. I'm telling you guys, really solid. He played a lot more on the slot this year. I mean, still significantly more on the outside, but 337 wide, 138, but he had the most amount of snaps this year in the slot. I think this guy is got a little bit more of a ceiling than Tet McMillan does. And so I can really see somebody like Sean Payton fall in love with him and feeling like, man, if we can get this guy in the second round, he might not make it to there, but if we can get him in the second round, that would be huge for somebody like him. So I love that. I think Jaden Higgins is somebody that is absolutely a dog when it comes to that. So that's what I'm saying. Let me know what you guys think about my wide receivers Broncos big board. Do you want to get into the running backs? Because I know I do. So you know what? Let's just put it all into one video and we'll get into the running backs. I'm going to make another video highlighting obviously the tight ends and some defensive linemen. I might break up the defensive linemen separately though, because there's the true nose, and then you got the 5 techs and 3 techs and type of players. So I might have to break that down a little bit separately. But I really wanted to get into the wide receivers and running back because I feel like at the end of the day, these are the two positions that I think the Broncos have a really good chance of going off and round run. Obviously, the other one is tight end, but I'm kind of getting tight end fatigue, to be honest with you. So let's get into the big board for the running backs. All right. This is what I think the Broncos running back big board is looking like through the eyes of Sean Payton and George Payton. Now, again, I'm going to go ahead and do this real quick. Let's break down the Broncos running back room right now. Okay. You got, this one's going to be easy because there's not a lot. You got Audric Estime. You've got Jaleel McLaughlin. You've got Blake Watson. That's essentially the room as it stands right now. All right. So what is Audric Estime going to bring? Well, what he projects to bring, and this is based off of not just what I saw his rookie year, but coming out of college, he projects to be that first and second down workhorse, somebody that can physical runner, run between the tackles. You saw A little bit of glimpses of that, but you also saw some really bad stuff. But really, he's kind of in the doghouse still with this coaching staff. Sean Payton always talks about it's a new year. You start fresh. It's a clean slate. And I do believe him when he says that. But the fact that he was benched for Tyler Bidet in the playoff game is very telling. It's something that you just cannot forget. Oh, yeah, and there's also Tyler Bidet. We'll see what Tyler Bidet does, right? Jalen McLaughlin is your scat back. He's somebody that's he's going to bring you a change of pace. He's definitely quicker. I think he's the best pure runner on this team, which is really saying a lot. But I think he's solid. I love the kid, hard work ethic. But for a smaller scat back type of role, if you project to be more of a third down guy, you got to be able to pass protect. He gives you nothing there. He gets his ass beat in pass protection in the few reps that he's gotten. He's also not, surprisingly, he's not a really good receiver. Or as at least, he hasn't gotten a lot of opportunities, but there's a reason for that. So he's not really going to beat you in the pass game. So when he's on the field, it's a little bit of a tell. They're going to try to get in the ball, whether it be handing the ball off or on a screen or, some sort of a toss play. But that's about it. So you don't like that. Blake Watson, he projects to be like your true receiving running back. Now, he was only activated for one game last year. Wasn't really surprised by that because I projected for him to have a redshirt year. So definitely keep tabs on Blake Watson. Depending on how this draft goes, if we end up going with one of these running backs that we're going to talk about, a specific type of back, then it could mean that, man, Blake Watson, they really liked what they saw from him in terms of in his rookie year. And if he made the most out of it, getting to understand and learn the playbook, right? He got that one game versus the Chargers. He got a little bit of game action, got his feet wet. Maybe they're going to tell him, get a little bit stronger, add some weight. He's going to go in there fresh. I think he could be a very pivotal part. But that, like I said, hope is not going to be a strategy. And Tyler Bidet, he did something right that the coaching staff liked. But realistically, he doesn't project to be a guy that can kill you in the air either. And he's not necessarily good at pass protection. He just had that unfortunate injury. He's obviously liked, but I don't view him to be add any kind of a skill set. So what do we need? We need a true dog, somebody that we know can run between the tackles, get open, right? Make plays happen, man. Just get down the field, have good vision, have good contact balance, turn those 2-yard runs into 5-yard gains. That's all we're really asking consistently, right? So we need a workhorse back because, like I said, hope is not a strategy. We can't hope that all of a sudden Audric Estime is going to be that guy. But we also need, especially for Sean Payton, we need somebody that can pass protect, and we need somebody that can beat you out of the backfield as a receiver, that can catch 80, 90, 100 balls. It happened a lot with Alvin Kamara. And I get it. It's unfair. We can't always expect Sean Payton needs his Alvin Kamara or he's going to try to force it, but at least get somebody that can get you 50 to 60 catches out of the backfield. You know that Sean Payton wants to run his offense like that. The only guy on the roster right now that projects that way is Blake Watson. And he was an undrafted guy, whom I love, by the way, but he was an undrafted guy who barely even played. He was active, I think, he was active for 2 games, but he actually got the ball in 1 game. Touched the ball like 7 times last year. So, again, hope is not a strategy. So, that being said, we need an entire revamp of the running back room. All right. So, that being said, let's get into it. Number 1, I don't think there's a doubt about it. Ashton Jeanty is the number 1 running back on their team. He projects the most like Alvin Kamara. He's a generational type of running back. I've never seen a running back have the kind of contact balance that Ashton Jeanty does. He just does not go down, man. He'll take a beat and somebody will hit him hard and he'll bounce right off and he'll keep rolling. He's got the speed. He's got the explosiveness. He caught like 50-something balls last year. People forget about that. So he's got the ability to catch the ball to the backfield. He can pass protect. The dude is just unbelievable, man. Broncos are not going to get him, though. Unless they're mortgaging the future for running back, which I would never do. I don't care who the running back is. Right? Or unless he somehow slips outside the top 10. Then I'm like, you go make that move. But Ashton Jeanty, I think, is the number 1 on their board. Number 2, I believe, is Travion Henderson. For the same reason of Emeka Egbuka, I think that, man, you talk about him, they say he's such a leader on that offense, vocal leader, somebody that is super well respected. So from a culture standpoint, he's very mature. I think he's going to love that. Sean Payton is always going to be a little bit hesitant to trust rookies, especially rookie running backs. We saw that with Estime. Now, granted, Estime did fumble. I get it. But he didn't really get a lot of second chances. Travion Henderson is somebody that is reliable. He's going to be very mature. You're not going to even feel like he's a rookie. And you know what's his best trait, probably, aside from being unbelievably explosive, is he is an absolute dog as a pass protector. And that's usually the one reason why a lot of rookies don't get as much playing time at the running back position in the rookie season. Not going to be a problem for TreVeyon Henderson. You can put him in, and he's your best pass blocking running back day one that we have on this roster, bar none. That is a fact. He is extremely good at that. He's also unbelievably explosive. He can run between the tackles, and he can run the outside zone that we like to run as well here. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He's a super well-rounded back. The only thing about TreVeyon is some people don't always love his size. And I get that. I get that. People are not always a big fan of his size. But guys, he's 5'11", right? 208 pounds. I think that he also, lost a little bit of weight for the combine so he can run a little bit faster. Wasn't so worried about his long speed. I didn't think he was going to be a 4.2 or 4.3 guy. He ended up running 4.43. His 10-yard split was a 1.52. But like I said, I think that the 1.52, he's just an explosive home run hitter. He showed up to the combine at 202. I would not be surprised if he was playing closer to 210. But what's nice about his body build is that most of his weight is carried in his lower half, in his legs. So he's a very deceivingly powerful runner. So I think he can be a 3-down back, but he doesn't necessarily project that way in the eyes of a lot of these scouts. But why is he number 2 over Omarion Hampton for the Broncos? Is because I know that I think he's a better pass catcher than Omarion Hampton currently is, and I think that he's a better run blocker than Omarion Hampton is already. I think obviously Omarion Hampton is a better pure runner, but the fall off is not so great to take over those two positives that TreVeyon Henderson has in terms of pass protecting and catching the ball. I think Sean Payton would love somebody like a TreVeyon. And he'll say to himself, you know what, if we need a physical between the tackles runner, we can get him later in the draft maybe. You can say that vice versa. Number 3 is Omarion Hampton for a lot of the reasons that we talked about. I just think Omarion Hampton is so good. He's super well-rounded, man. He's Ashton Genty light. Contact balance is super impressive. He's got a lot more wiggle and lateral agility than he's given credit for. He runs a little bit upright, ain't no doubt about it. But I just think he's extremely good. Well-rounded. I think he can pass protect pretty well. He's got some good pass protecting reps on film. The will and the want to is there. He might need to have a little bit of refinement. He's not going to be as clean in that department as TreVeyon Henderson, but he's really good. And I think he can also be somebody that catches the ball. He didn't do a whole lot of ball catching, right? But he certainly has that in his arsenal. I don't think that there's much doubt about that. And his explosiveness and what he ran at the combine was impressive. So Omarion Hampton is just really good, man. He's been consistent and durable, and he's played also in 38 games over the course of the last 3 years. 5.9 yards a carry averaged both years. 15 touchdowns over each of the last 2 years. He had 43 targets, 38 catches this past season, 29 last. So there's an increase there. But just somebody that is consistent. I mean, they're going to love the consistent nature of Omarion Hampton. 4.35 yards after contact, incredibly impressive. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot to love about him. Obviously, we talked about this quite a bit. But like I said, I just think that Sean Payton is going to like TreVeyon Henderson a little bit more because of those two factors that are a little bit more difficult to teach, and that's pass pro, and that's being utilized as a weapon out of the backfield. Number 4 is Quinshon Judkins. The reason he's below Omarion Hampton is because I don't think he's as good of a pass protector yet, and I don't think he's as good of a pass catcher yet. But as a pure runner, there's not that much of a difference between Omarion Hampton and Quinshon Judkins based off of what I see. They're both just run like dogs. They project to be workhorse backs. But I just think that he takes a little bit less when it comes to, his ability to pass pro and catch the ball to the backfield. And I feel like with Quinshon, with some of the pass protection reps that I've seen, he doesn't always look like he wants to do it. That's kind of a problem. So that's why I give him a little bit of a step back. But with everything else, man, he's special. He's got a mean, stiff arm. He don't fumble the ball. Can he catch the football out of the backfield? I mean, Maybe a little bit, yeah, for sure. He's not gonna kill you there. Could he get better at that? Absolutely. But it's impressive. It's very impressive. And I'm gonna pull up this comparison thing here real quick because there's something that I kind of wanted to highlight before. So let me pull some of this stuff up because, like I said, guys, PFF is not the all and be all. Ain't no doubt about it. But there are some things here that I think are really interesting when it comes to these three. All right, so let me take this down for a second. Hit you like this. Go ahead, do a share screen, and we'll give you guys Omarion Hampton's numbers first. So here's a couple things that I really like about Omarion, quite a bit actually. First of all, the durability. Playing in that many games for that many seasons is amazing. Look at the consistency, man. I mean, obviously 2022 he was a freshman, but sophomore and junior year when he was the full-time starting running back, 1,500 plus yards rushing, 5.9 yards average, 15 touchdowns both seasons, right? He gets an increase in target year over year, and he gets an increase in the amount of catches year over year, and that increases in the amount of yards year over year. You got to love that. That's awesome. Another thing is that he's very well graded in zone, and he's very well graded in gap, and he has a 128.1 elusive rating. That is actually very, very good. And 4.35 yards after contact is damn impressive. That is really, really good. That is one of those like generational type of numbers. Like you don't see those kinds of numbers very often, right? Unless your name is Ashton Genty and then your yards after contact is 5.25. I mean, his numbers are stupid. His elusive rating is off the charts, gap grade, zone grade, rushing grade. We're going down a little bit of a rabbit hole. But anyways, still, Omarion Hampton, very, very good at 4.35. Quinshon Judkins, let's look at him. All right. Elusive rating is definitely lower. It's about half in terms of what you're going to be seeing there. But rushing grade is solid. Amazing runner in zone. Amazing runner in gap. I can understand that he's not so much of a make you miss guy as Omarion Hampton is, even though, they're both similar in size. He's a run through you. His stiff arm is nasty. Like I say, he don't fumble the ball, but look how consistent he's been, right? Taking it back to the old Miss days in 2002 and 2023. 1,500 yards rushing as a freshman, 1,100 yards as a sophomore. Came his junior year to Ohio State. Wasn't a full-time guy, but still was able to get over 1,000 yards. Yards per average is solid. His touchdowns, unbelievable touchdown production over the last 3 seasons. And he's consistent catching the football, but he doesn't do it a lot. So that's what you see there. So that's why I see a little bit of a drop-off. But let's look at my guy, Travion Henderson. Man, do I love him. Look at that. Elusive rating, 108.9, is very elite. 4.43 yards after contact. That's actually higher than Omarion Hampton. Someone that is known to be a pinball. Aside from Ashton Genty, Omarion Hampton is the guy, man. He is tough to bring down after contact. Some of that is because he just blows by people. Others are because his contact balance is unbelievably impressive. 5.9 yards per carry, 1,600 yards last year, 1,500 the year before. I mean, consistent. Look how many games he's played. Right? Oh, my bad. Hold on. Yeah, I was on the wrong one. My bad. I was looking at the wrong tab. Anyways, still a lot of games played. He did have the injury concerns in 2002, but over the last couple of seasons, he still played in 26 games. Yards per average, 7 yards a carry last season, 5.9 the year before, 10 touchdowns, 11 touchdowns the year prior, and 26 catches, right? 281 yards. So wasn't utilized a lot, but he's shown that he can do it. And a lot of these catches are not just screens. He's catching the ball down the field, making guys miss. He's shown a lot of that propensity to do that. But his 4.43 yards after contact is amazing, and he's just grading out good everywhere, man. He's an impressive overall player. So that's why, all right, we're going down way too much of a rabbit hole. So, oh yeah. All right, so let me go ahead and do this now. Go back here. That's why I have it like this, for all those reasons. And number 5, I couldn't leave him off the list, man. I love this dude. I always have. I put a video out on him, I think, in December. He just seems to be such a Sean Payton guy. Right? Totally. And there's going to be one very, very critical factor to LaQuint Allen's game that could be making Sean Payton hesitant. LaQuint Allen is the best pass-catching running back in this class, bar none. Brashard Smith is in the conversation. LaQuint Allen is better. He looks like a slot receiver when he's running routes. He's buttery smooth. He gets open. It's natural. He's nice with it. And he's shown that he could be a very good pass protector, a very willing one. And he's had some pretty good pass protecting routes. That in and of itself projects you to be an elite third down back. He's also somebody that you're going to be able to get, maybe late day 2, early day 3, potentially, as someone that day 1 can be a third down back immediately because he can pass protect good enough and he can catch the hell out of the football. What kind of a running back is LaQuint Allen going to be in the NFL is going to be the major key, because I was never overly impressed with his ability to run the football, right? He's got a really weird build, right? 6 foot, 202, 207, I think is what he measured in at. And I know I was just talking about Trevion Henderson at that size, but you look at the two, and LaQuint Allen carries all that weight in his chest and his arms. He's a pretty yoked dude up top, but he is skinny down low. And Trevion Henderson is the opposite. So LaQuint Allen, and he's a very upright runner, I see. So he doesn't always have necessarily the best type of contact balance when you talk about somebody like a LaQuint Allen. Pull some of that up for you. But what's interesting and unique about him, man, is like I said, he can catch the football. He really is like Alvin Kamara out of the backfield. It's just what kind of a contact balance does he have? He's not the most elusive type of a runner. And that's because he's a little bit taller and skinnier. Can he do it? Maybe. I mean, I'm sure he's got some elusive nature to him. But he's a unique prospect for me, man, because he's someone that, like, he had 16 touchdowns. He's got a nose for the end zone. This is just rushing touchdowns. 16 of them. Over 1,000 yards rushing. Very respectable 4.5 yards per attempt. His zone and his gap grades are very consistent. They're solid. They're in the mid-70s. Elusive rating's a little bit low. And his yards after contact is 3.0, and that's considered on the lower end. So, yeah, he's not really the pure running back. And what really opened up my eyes to this more than anything is that he didn't run at the combine, and he didn't even run at his pro day. In fact, he just ran routes in his pro day. So he's probably speaking to his agent, and his agent's telling him, hey, man, you're going to be a pass-catching running back at the next level. He's going to be somebody that, like, Darren Sproles was, right? Not necessarily as elusive, but that kind of a role. Kenneth Gainwell for many, many years. There's a lot of them. Jalen Warren, what he's been, even though he can run the hell out of the rock. So that's kind of the role that he's going to be at first, but that's extremely, extremely valuable in my opinion. I think teams covet that. There's going to be less of a learning curve with him being a third down back, just right off the back. And I think Sean Payton is really going to be attracted of that style of running back. Now, here's the thing too, right? Players like him and Brashard Smith, they give the Broncos a lot of versatility, because if they end up going, like, let's say they don't want to reach for running back in the first round, they're unable to get Trevion in the second. So let's say they get somebody like a Caleb Johnson, right, or a Quinshon Judkins, just a pure running back. They don't really give you much else, but they just run the hell out of the ball. You can pair them up with a LaQuint Allen, and now you've got a really nice running back room. So look for that. I look for the Broncos to take 2 backs in this draft. I think LaQuint Allen or Brashard Smith, or maybe Jaden Blue. I've been doing some Jaden Blue work. Can be those guys that you can get later on, 4th, 5th, 6th round. And they can complement one of the other running backs that you get. Like, I'm not a big Caleb Johnson fan, as you guys know. But you get Caleb Johnson, you mix him with a LaQuint Allen, I can really, really like that room. Right? Quinshon Judkins with LaQuint Allen or Brashard Smith or Jaden Blue, I love that room. So the top 3 backs I think can be workhorse, every down backs. And that's why I got it. Guys, this is a 40-minute video almost. I did not want it to go this long, but I appreciate you guys tuning in if you have, man. Let me know below what you think about the Broncos wide receiver big board and the running backs wide receiver big board below. Where did I get it wrong? Where did I get it right? Why and why not? Hit me up in the comments. But y'all be sure, man, spend time with your family. Tell those you love them, that you love them the most. And also, take it easy, man. Go Broncos as always. And until the next video, peace out.